General Amir Aviv from the IDSF was here in DC. We were lucky enough to have him here in the studio talking about the extent of 12-day war of Israel and Iran and see what's going to be next. General Aviv, thank you so much joining us here, Iran International Studio in Washington, D.C. We are so happy to have you here.
A pleasure.
Let me ask you first, because that's the dominant question we have. With the 12 days war between Israel and Iran that happened in June, the obvious question still remains, would there be another attack?
Well, we know that Iran wants to rebuild itself. One of our top Mossad guys in the IDSF, he described it as a 6-day war, in this case 12-day war, which might bring a challenge of a Yom Kippur war later on. I mean, it's obvious that the Iranians want to retaliate in some way. The big question is what will happen in Iran in the coming years? And it's hard to predict because we see a country still really focused on terrorism, on rebuilding capabilities. At the same time, no water. They cannot even provide basic needs of their own society. So where is this going? It's not clear. Israel is preparing for another attack if needed, and there are 3 things that will bring Israel to attack. One is an Iranian attempt to rebuild their air defense in a way that affects this corridor to Tehran that Israel created now. The attempt to, again, produce massive amounts of ballistic missiles. We saw how dangerous these ballistic missiles are. And of course, an attempt to renew their nuclear programs. So Israel is vigilant. We're checking, every minute what they do with the US. And if we need to, we'll attack again.
So 3 things. Air defense, missile, nuclear. If anything of this happens, Israel will start attacking again.
Might, yeah. I mean, this is the idea. We need to keep this corridor open. We need to prevent any buildup of ballistic missile capabilities. And of course, we'll never agree to any nuclear capabilities. I must say that this regime has been hit very, very hard, maybe much harder than people would imagine, in multiple ways. It's not so easy to recover from such an attack. And I think this regime is suffering from a lot of internal challenges. And also part of the capability to deal with future challenges is building an alliance, a Western Israeli moderate Sunni alliance. This is really the vision of President Trump with Prime Minister Netanyahu to extend the Abraham Accords and create an alliance that will counter what we saw in the last few years, this Chinese, Russian, Iranian front that has emerged. This front is weakening. Iran has weakened a lot. Russia, I think the idea is to try to pull them back more to the Western side than China. So this is a global strategy that President Trump is pushing, and Israel is a big and important part of that.
You mentioned corridor that is open and you want to keep it. So if I understand you correctly, it means the air defenses of Iran, which were down or were attacked, if they try to rebuild it, that would be something that Israel would very much want to still have the access to almost beat Iran with no air defense.
So when Israel launched the attack, there were more than 130 air defense systems defending the area of Tehran and overall I would say the western part of Iran. Israel took out more than 84 of these systems almost simultaneously, or like in 2 days. It took 2 days to open a corridor to Tehran, and from that moment onwards, Israel dominated Iranian skies. If they try to bring strategic capabilities, talking about air defense, then Israel will have to consider doing something about it. And Israel is very, very vigilant, looking at exactly what's going on now in Iran.
Yeah. Well, since my original question was, would there be another attack? And you said 3 conditions that if it happens, it's going to be attack. If, for example, Iran tries to rebuild its air defenses, and you said there will be attack, but there will be just attack to bring the air defenses open, or like it would be on different phases or different purposes with different objectives? How it's going to
So
work?
we're not going to, say everything that Israel might do, but I think that we're moving from a war to operations between wars. And some of these operations might not be kinetic. Israel has operated for years in different ways, using Mossad, using capabilities. We saw in this war what the Mossad is capable of, not only in Iran, but also in Lebanon, talking about the pagers. So there are multiple ways of, fighting Iran's aspiration to rebuild itself. But we have to remember, it's not only about that. Iran is operating globally. It's operating terror cells in European countries, in other places. It wants to target Israel in other ways. It's pushing huge amounts of weapons through Jordan and through Egypt and trying to weaponize the Palestinian Authority, Hamas, Palestinian Islamic Jihad, but also Israeli Arabs. In a way, they're shifting from a ring of fire to try to ignite what's going on inside Israel, but also still trying to equip Hezbollah. They are active. As long as this regime exists, they are constantly going to try to fight Israel and eradicate Israel. I think there is a clear understanding in Israel. This is the reality also in the US. In this war, the 12-day war, we didn't put a goal that says bring down the regime. But really, we need to bring down the regime. We, the US, the Iranian people, the time for this regime to go has come. And when you see that they cannot even provide everyday life for the Iranian people, water, food, electricity, it's not a functional regime. It's a regime that really is focusing just on terror and not really bringing solutions to the Iranian people.
Do you believe Israel achieved all the objectives it had during that 12 days war with Iran?
Definitely. I mean, there were, I would say, two big objectives. One is destroy the nuclear sites, and this has been achieved together with the US. We opened the airspace. We took out many of the scientists that were leading these programs, and also the archive where all the knowledge was. So there is a say that you can hit, sites. You cannot affect knowledge. We did affect knowledge. We took out the scientists that were leading this project, and to replace somebody like that, it's very, very difficult. Same goes with the archive. There was an archive with all the knowledge, and we destroyed it, along with the sites, and along with multiple industries that were supporting the nuclear plan. And also Israel hit very, very seriously the industries that were producing ballistic missiles and supporting the production of ballistic missiles. This is a huge danger to Israel. They wanted to reach a point where they have 10,000 ballistic missiles. They would have overwhelmed Israel, all over Israel. And we saw how dangerous these ballistic missiles are. So this was also a very important goal, and we reached both goals. Now they're going to try to renew the production, and if they do, they know the consequences. Israel is not going to sit and wait for them to produce nuclear weapons or ballistic missiles.
If all the objectives were met and what Israel wanted to do, I assume, as you said, militarily, nuclear issues, everything. What kind of objective justifies the attacks on Evin prison in Tehran and also television, state-run television in Tehran?
So we know that the television in Iran is used by the regime to basically, control the society. And the message to the regime, we can bring down the regime if we want to. We can really destabilize your ability to govern in Iran. We can reach even the prison and release, people that you have held because they oppose the regime. And the message was, we can destabilize you. We wanted to take them out of balance and feel threatened existentially. And I think this psychology worked very, very well. And also the ability to dominate the Iranian skies. This is something that I'm sure not only physically but psychologically really, really affected the regime.
No, I'm asking is because usually, hitting the, points of that might be considered sign of repression to society is another objective, which is kind of a regime change or causing a regime
Yeah.
change in Iran.
So we signal to this regime we can push a regime change if we want to. We're now focusing more on the capabilities. But if you will continue your path to try to, challenge us and eradicate Israel, we know what to do. We can really endanger your existence as a regime.
You said the damage that Iran was hit during this war is much more than has been said or reported. From what we hear from public reporting and everything, could you add anything that what kind of extent or damage, what kind of a thing that we haven't received it yet or we don't know it yet, but you can share something with us?
So I think the media overall really, really focused on the main nuclear sites, which were hit at the end of the day by the American forces, by the B-2. But there were multiple industries that were supporting all this effort, the nuclear effort and also the ballistic missile effort. And Israel took out many, many, many of these industries. It's really taking down the whole military industry of Iran in a very meaningful way. And to rebuild something like that can take a very, very long time. And I think that, there was a very long time where the world was really, really deterred by Iran. They felt Iran is a strong country. And we said for a long time, they're a paper tiger. They're not as strong as you think. And the moment we hit them the way we did, suddenly you saw the European countries becoming emboldened. And then they reinstated the sanction, harsh sanctions on Iran. This is going to have a huge impact for many, many years. We said we need to reinstate these sanctions. And now that they have been reinstated, this will affect the regime in a very, very meaningful way. It's much more isolated. Economically, they are constrained. And the ability to, again, sustain massively, these militias that have been built all around the Middle East, it's going to be more challenging for them, and especially also looking at their internal challenges inside Iran.
They embolden European, I think you referred to France, Germany, and UK, which started to reimpose UN sanctions on Iran. You said the military capabilities has been attacked. I mean, could you say more? Is it just ammunition that they had, factories they have? What was the extent of it that we haven't heard it yet? But do you think it's totally gone?
For let's say producing ballistic missiles, you need many different parts. You need explosives. You need fuel. So Israel attacked all the components, all of them, that enable them to produce ballistic missiles. And the same goes for the production of producing these nuclear capabilities. It's not just about Fordo or all these sites. It's really about many different industries and also scientists that were really, leading the weaponizing of the nuclear bombs. So it's a very unique capability and specialty. And we started the attack by hitting these specific scientists that have been leading the weaponizing part of the nuclear program, which is the most dangerous part. We know that Iran knows how to enrich uranium. But one thing is enriching uranium. Another thing is weaponizing a bomb. And they were working and getting closer to the ability to weaponize. We destroyed all these sites where they were working on that, but also eliminated the scientists that were leading this dangerous program. And we know 100% that if this regime would have achieved and produced nuclear weapons, they wouldn't have hesitated to shoot these nuclear weapons on Israel. We know that. They intended to shoot at us nuclear weapons. So we really had to be systematic in the way we dealt with all the components of production and the people that were dealing with this, because they were endangering Israel existentially. And this is not something we could agree.
Was the intention of the war just to keep it to 12 days, or by some kind of a pressure or international, other American, whatever, that caused the war to end at 12 days? Or was it just designed to be 12 days?
It was executed exactly the way it was planned. It was planned to be a very, very short war. Going in, destroying all these capabilities, getting out. That's it. In this kind of warfare, you have to be very focused. You have to define very clearly what are the goals that you want to achieve. Once you achieve the goals, that's it. And then you need a mechanism of stopping the war. And we knew that if we will dominate completely Iranian skies, the Iranians will have an interest to stop it as soon as possible, because this was, dangerous for the regime, embarrassing also, They prepared for so many years, and in 2 days we dismantled everything and controlled the skies. So obviously they were shocked, especially also taking into account that all the leading leadership in this regime's army was also targeted at the beginning of the attack. And without the leaders of the air defense and the Air Force and the chief of staff and all these people that the regime has worked with for many, many, many years, these are people that have been around for decades. This created a reality that there was a shock, but also inability to work, because they have been so long in these positions, you couldn't replace them in a day. To bring somebody new, it takes a long time.
Going back to the question that I had you earlier, and you said you're not going to open Israel plans, but at least give us likely scenarios. If one of those three conditions, air defenses, ballistic missiles, Iran starts doing it, would it be one-time attack just for this, or what are the options? How it's going to work? It's going to be next phase of attacking different sites, different capabilities. What are we looking at?
It can be one specific attack on one specific capability, not a whole war. And it can be done in multiple ways. You have to be creative in the way you do it. It can be kinetic, it can be not kinetic. So Israel has to plan and coordinate also with the US and send a clear message. We're not going to allow Iran to rebuild itself again and endanger Israel the way they wanted to do it. We're going to constantly also degrade their partners. We're seeing the constant attacks on Hezbollah. We will continue degrading them systematically until there is a point where the Lebanese government can actually deal with them. We're not there yet. They've been weakened a lot. They're trying to rebuild, and Israel is retaliating and attacking again and again. I hope that the moment will come when they're weak enough that actually Lebanon can deal with them. Same goes with Hamas. Hamas will be eradicated. There will be no Hamas in Gaza eventually. People think that's it, now it ended, the war ended. The war didn't end. It didn't end because Hamas is still partially controlling roughly half of Gaza, and this is not a reality that is sustainable. We'll have to deal with Hamas and we'll have to eradicate them. And Israel also is continuing to build plans and seeing how they are dealing with the Houthis and with militias in Iraq if they try to challenge us again. So Israel is not sitting and waiting. It's operating, planning, equipping, developing cutting-edge technologies. It's a race. It's a race, we know that. And we hope that in this race, if we manage with the US to also build a regional coalition, this is going to enhance the capability to deal with this even better.
I want to ask you about the paper tiger that you said. Last day of the war, it seemed what ballistics attack Iran did to Israel was seemed, I'm not sure, but it seemed very, very effective, or maybe the most deadly or fatal attacks that they've done during the whole 12 days.
So they had a big challenge to shoot many missiles at the same time. And remember, they simply shot at Israeli citizens. We didn't shoot at the Iranian citizens. We targeted our attacks on military sites. In places we had to attack where there were civilians, we asked them to move out so we can deal only with the military sites and not endanger Iranian people. But they shot indiscriminately at the center, the cities of Israel. They shot at an hospital. And when you deal with ballistic missiles and you get shot dozens and dozens of ballistic missiles, we know that air defense is not 100%. It's around 90%. And we did reach these numbers, but 10% when it's a ballistic missile, that's meaningful and dangerous. So Israel is learning. We are moving towards the production of the next generations of air defense. We're talking about Arrow 4, we're talking about Arrow 5, and of course, we're talking about the laser. And Israel is moving very, very fast towards a much, much more robust way of defending our skies. We have done very well in this war, and we can do much better to really defend Israeli skies in a way that will really render them, in a way, defenseless on one side with our offensive capabilities and not being able to really hit us in a meaningful way. And this can create, serious deterrence because they cannot hit us, but we can hit them very effectively. They have to think a lot before they challenge us.
On attacking civilians, I think there was a widely spread video of Tajrish Square in Tehran that Israel hit, and there was not apparent military or anything. So it's looked that it went through the somewhere that civilians were just passing through or passing by. So
first of all, you can have military sites and not far away civilians, and this is why you pinpoint the attacks in a very, very pinpointed way. Also in Gaza, you are operating in an area where there are civilians, but the fact that there are people, it doesn't mean the civilians in every case. Israel doesn't attack civilians, okay? We attack military sites. This is what we do. And this is why we evacuated all areas in Tehran to be able to really operate freely and not endanger citizens.
Last question, if I may, General. I just want to make sure, again, people are just asking about, is there any other round of attack in Iran? Could we, you said there would be not kinetic, could be lots of different way, but if those three things that you said are, just breached, or if the corridor that you want is trying to be rebuilt, either by any kind of form of sabotage or any different form, Israel is trying to not to Iran to go back to the level that it was before after the 12th war. Is that the correct assessment?
Israel will not let Iran rebuild its capabilities. One way or another, we're going to deal with this. It can be a massive kinetic attack, a small kinetic attack, a not a kinetic attack, cyber, in multiple ways. They need to know if they rebuild themselves, this regime is endangering its existence. And the next time, we're not just going to deal with these capabilities, we might bring down the regime. And they have to decide if they want to exist or want to challenge us.
Do you think next time regime change would be one of the objectives of Israel, if it wants to do that?
It might be, because I think there is a very clear understanding on the Israeli side. This regime is endangering the region, is endangering us. They're not going to stop. And might be that the next time, Israel and the US, by the way, will say, okay, now we think it's time to bring down the regime. Something that is considered. We have to take it into account.
Thank you so much, General.
My pleasure.